Gallup and Ross Nelson. Welcome to the podcast, guys. Cory, this is your second time coming back on, which super stoked about. And Ross, this is your first time, so welcome. We appreciate you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and Jordan, way to make it through traffic back here, my man.
Well, thank you very much. I was a little nervous. I thought I was going to have to do like the Houdini and just appear during the episode. So
you did good, bro.
It's worked out.
Yeah, it's all good. Well, hey, the cool part about all this is we're all in the same profession here, which I really love. And knowing that you are back here, we have a lot to talk about. But first, Ross, since you're kind of new to this, man, let's talk about you for a second, dude.
All right.
How did you and Cory get linked up to even come here?
So Cory and I have worked together in the same battalion for a while. I think at least a year or two. And being in the same department for a while, we ran into each other at different events and things. And we were neighboring stations, and I started kind of going through my journey with the health and nutrition side of things, trying to get my life squared away. And if you guys have listened to Cory's story in the past from the first podcast, I was the a-hole that told him that just eat less and move more is what I was doing. So
it's that simple.
I am that guy, right? Well, and again, like he was talking about, it's the fire service, right? So as soon as you do something, someone has an opinion on it. So
oh God, yeah.
So just trying to figure it out, and we'd see each other on calls, and I think probably for about 2 months straight, he was asking me, "What are you doing? What are you changing?" And that's when it finally just came out, like, "Hey, this is what I'm doing." And it was
you didn't even tell me it was Brian Roberts,
right? And that's where I was getting at with is someone else had to kind of tell Cory what was going on. Then once I think Cory approached me and said, "Hey, you're doing this?" I'm like, "Yep, that's what I'm doing." So
okay.
Yeah, so that's how I kind of came into it with Cory, and we quickly in that group that we were working with, there's a first responder side of things, and so we were kind of getting together, and as we were both going down this journey together, I got to know Cory a lot better than just the company officer from the neighboring company.
Right.
You know, we're becoming buddies, and we're texting back and forth, and can you believe this is going on? Or, you know, so it really started to grow this friendship and bond, and as things progressed and things started to change, we kind of started looking at each other differently, of having more trust and faith in each other with going with our route that we ended up going.
Which is important, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah. And that's what led us to where we're at today.
And is this also part of the Superhuman Fathers?
No, we started.
Well, it started that way.
It started.
Yeah.
Okay. So both of you on that?
Yes.
Yes. Ross had his own transformation, and he actually was doing it before I was. And it was by seeing his transformation that it made me realize that this wasn't just some guy that maybe had 20 pounds to lose and then got shredded and jacked and completely changed his life. He looked more like me.
Okay.
So it was by seeing him that it made me realize, hey, I'm capable of doing this too. So
I see.
We were both part of Superhuman Fathers, which is a fitness coaching, nutrition coaching, and accountability group started by a firefighter from our agency. Mm-hmm. And then we both had, pretty amazing transformations. There was no magic pill. It was hard as hell. We did the work. Mm-hmm. But then you get to a point where you climb to the mountaintop.
Yeah.
In a program like that. And, then you start asking yourself, what next? Am I truly this man? Mm-hmm. Am I capable of maintaining this on my own? And in the middle of both of our journeys, Ross had spoken up about wanting to do something outside of the fire service. And that piqued my interest because I had never thought about anything like that before. I'm old school, where you signed up, you got your job, you counted your blessings, you did your 33 years, and then you retired and rode off into the sunset and tried not to die within 2 years.
Right. That's very true.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And so when Ross said that, it was the first time that I'd ever thought about doing something different, or doing something different in retirement. And so I contacted him on the side and said, hey, I'd be interested in doing that with you. And then once we both hit that point in within Superhuman Fathers where we were, it's almost like we had graduated high school and we're off to college now. And now now the new seniors have come up and now they're in charge of the school. They're the big men on campus. And so we had to ask ourselves, and I started getting curious about what goes on behind the scenes. Why did this work for me? Mm-hmm. How does the nutrition work? How does the workout programming work? So we started educating ourselves on that. And then I was the first one to kind of take the leap and walk away from Superhuman Fathers.
Okay.
I had zero intention of starting our own program. We had talked about it in the past, maybe someday. Yeah. Someday is always just, what does Jack Johnson say? It pretty much seems that maybe, or pretty much always means no, or something like that, right? It seems to me that maybe pretty much always means no.
Good reference.
So you're going with banana pancakes.
Yeah. So I ended up starting a coaching app, well, on the same app that we were using in Superhuman Fathers, because I still like the programming and the workouts. Well, you can't just sign up for it as a client. You have to be a coach and then assign clients to it. So I just did that for myself.
You can be your own coach in this program.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you need like an administrator type.
Yeah.
To be able to, okay.
So I signed up for basically both ends of the program. I signed up as a coach and then hired myself as a
I'm
client.
my own boss.
Yeah. And so I was doing that on my own, and Ross was still in Superhuman Fathers. And then other people started finding out that I was no longer with the program and that I had my own ability to program workouts. And they said, hey, can I, my membership is also up, or I'd like to join you. Can you put me in your program? So initially I was doing it for free because I'm like, sure, why not? I'm just messing around anyway. And then it got to a point where I had a handful of guys in there where I contacted Ross and I said, hey, remember how we talked about possibly doing our own coaching thing somewhere down the road? And he was like, yeah. And I said, well, I think now's the time. I think it's already happened.
Sooner than later.
So, and that's how we got started.
Heck yeah.
And Kyle, he's pretty straightforward with it. When we started Superhuman Fathers, he talked about, ultimately my goal is to get you guys out and coaching and kind of feed back into the machine, if you will. So it wasn't like we're these renegades that kind of went off and started our own thing. It definitely was fostered throughout the program. You kind of grow these multiple facets of your life, right? So you get your nutrition and workouts in, and then that kind of exposed me to, okay, well, I got these two things kind of figured out. My financial house is a freaking mess. And that's what kind of got me into looking to other sources of revenue and going down some other paths. And that's when Cory and I kind of really linked up on the coaching side of things. And so that's one of the things about a program is you start to realize where your deficiencies are. And that's the great thing about it is you can start strengthening and improving that. So that's how this really kind of started. And yeah, we had the same goal of, hey, look, our target audience is first responders primarily. We'll help anyone that we can possibly. So, but to pull out as much as you can out of retirement.
Yeah.
If we can pull more checks out of retirement than we put into the system, that's a big win.
You're winning.
Yeah.
And by helping our guys be healthier and live longer and not die of cardiac related events on incidents. And, that's what we're really kind of aiming for. So that was having that common goal and a drive that really helped out.
I think that's really cool that you guys are able to key in on the, and obviously, like you're saying, the goal is first responders initially, and who that extends to, the people you can help is amazing either way. But having that, it's like, look, sometimes programs that are set up create the foundational, awareness of the people involved, right? You guys clearly have utilized a program that has worked for you. You've tapped into whatever that catalyst was that went from where you were at before and that was the driving factor into getting to the healthy status that you are, not just okay with, but are excited about, right? And then things spin off. I mean, that's life, that's business, that's all these other things, and good for. I don't know him personally, but obviously he's created a good thing for himself in that.
Yeah.
And as things expand and, maybe ideas of what you think individually they should be will change, and keying in on the first responders may happen to be one. I like to see that within our community because it's, it's inspiring. And we talked a lot about that when you were on here last time, Cory, and the backstory of what got you started and everything. And I hope we jump into that with you too, Ross.
Yeah.
But I think it's inspiring, and it's, you get to see these individuals have real-time success, and making that the priority, or at least the foundation of what you're doing, or the new foundation, I should say, it's really cool to hear. And, hopefully everyone takes a piece of that and can apply it to that, and like you were saying, what is that? Not calories in, calories out. What was the term?
Move more, eat less.
All these like one-liners that everyone's heard this, know, and like there's always like working in this job, and I'm sure it's like a lot, but we are exposed to the crash diets, the what's popular, the keto, this, that, and I'm not knocking any of them because I'll be 100% honest with you. I've tried them all.
Oh, we all have. Yeah,
I'm all for that
guilty
quick,
of it.
like
Absolutely.
Let's put 10 sick. I can see one ab. We're doing good. But
I had more of a pony keg going.
I always called it a 4-pack and an inner tube. That's what I had going on. I was like, never can quite get rid of the hunches here. My parents say it's genetic, so no. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that very cool to see you guys take that step, and more specifically, I think it's cool for first responders, and you're creating sometimes. I think when you see a company like the Superhuman Fathers, they have tremendous success in that, right? And sometimes when you see that movement go super fast, I mean, I'm sure it's good to the individual that owns it, but sometimes when things get like kind of clicky, at least in this profession, you create like a distension sometimes within the group where it's like, you're like, oh, I'm in good shape because I'm in this club, when that's really not what it's about. You're trying to surround people that are like, look, you want to live a good life. You want to cash out your retirement checks. And if it so happens to be that you're in the best shape that you've ever been in your life, then it's a win across the board.
Totally.
Instead of it being this like, well, if you're out, you're out, or if you're not in it, you're, you know what I mean? Like there's not this weird distension, like obviously we all talk shit because that's what we do, and that's just personality types, but it's in love.
Right.
Of course.
Most of the time.
Of course.
Yeah. It was a disclaimer. I was like, most of the time. But either way, man, I think it's really cool.
But look at the fitness industry in general, right? I mean, like you were talking about, like keto, any of the big personalities that you've had, they're all kind of a flash in the pan thing, and the nice thing about what we're doing at Intentional Savage Fitness is we're using, and we learned it from Superhuman Fathers, is it's a tried and true kind of old school method of just watching your nutrition, balanced nutrition, and we're not omitting any food group. Carbs aren't the demon or fats aren't the demon. Nice. And it's resistance training, right? There's no fasting. You can do whatever works for you or whatever you like. It's a lifestyle thing. And as a commuter, like that's one weird thing for me too, is I'm still able to travel back and forth from home to work while still hitting all my nutritional and workout goals. So that's the great thing about this program is you can still go eat out with your family. You can still go on vacations. You're not making any big sacrifices. The sustainability of it long-term is what was nice about it. And I think really works for our profession.
Yeah. It sounds like it's an increase of accountability to the individual because you have to stay on track, but that also means you have to do the work.
Right.
Right. So it's not like you said, it's not just like you're not taking a pill.
Right.
I wish.
I know,
Yeah,
man.
But,
so do I.
but having a fundamental life approach that doesn't get rid of the comfort measures completely.
The enjoyment.
It's like, yeah, dude, you can't hammer burgers every night.
No.
Like, even though I could literally every single day.
I'm right there with you.
But, I just attainable is really, and I think that's the key to this success is that it's like, obviously you're going to have to work. There's nothing easy
No.
with that in life, but I don't know, seeing that firsthand with individuals, personalities, stuff like that, getting to know. Anyway, I think what you guys are doing are awesome.
So
appreciate it.
How much weight did you lose?
Oh,
Ross?
thank you. I was about to ask that.
I'm down at my lowest, I was down 70 pounds. So I started at 235. I got down to 165. And that was kind of over the course of a year and a half.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I lost my initial probably 60 pounds in 6 to 8 months. And then kind of started trying to gain some muscle back on. And then I have this bad habit of starting these things right before the holiday. So I am that idiot that starts something right before a holiday to really deprive myself.
At least you don't wait till January 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I got a running head start into the holidays.
You know, there's countless people everywhere that right now are saying, well, the holidays are here, so I'm going to wait till January 1st. So they're already throwing away 2 months.
Right.
Yeah.
2 months at
For 2 days, really.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, like Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? Like that's going to be the 2 days that they're going to want to let loose, and they're going to cut off 60 days.
Yeah, so I'm down 82 pounds at my lowest. So we're at over 150 pounds between the two of us. Wow. And we didn't do it by a fad diet. We didn't do it by whatever the latest fad workout program is, P90X, Beachbody, I'm sorry, I don't mean to speak negatively about any programs or whatever, but 90% of what we did was mindset change and daily habits. That's it. I heard a great quote the other day. John Gordon was on Andy Frisella's podcast, and he said, you don't do it by doing extraordinary things. You do ordinary things with extraordinary consistency.
Very good.
And that's all we did. We did normal stuff with extraordinary consistency. And that's what we continue to do. So I do want to clear something up for anybody that might be wondering, that knows us, that knows Superhuman Fathers, that knows Kyle Carnahan. There is no ill will, no bad blood between us. He encouraged us to do this.
That's excellent.
We're not the only ones to branch off. Our program is inspired by Superhuman Fathers. And he even said to me in one of the last conversations we had was, hey, I look at it this way. The more people, the more men's lives we can change. It's all good.
Yeah.
Well, and imitation is one of the greatest forms of flattery, right?
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
So yeah, and we talked to him both independently, and yeah, he was very encouraging of us starting our own thing. So yeah, there's never been any ill will or malice between any of us. So.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you see his family, dude. You're like, geez, everyone's shredded.
I know. Right. Even like his 2-year-old daughter. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah,
in the
Flex
background,
posing, yeah. Like,
hammering
Lord.
push-ups.
I was scrolling through the
5
day.
more, Johnny.
We were at work. I was at work overtime, whatever it was, and they had brought donuts, and I'm like, before conference call, all that cool stuff, and someone brought donuts, and I was like chowing on one, and I just see his picture of his family. I was just like, I'm such a piece of crap. Like, what's wrong with me? But Ross, dude, for you, man, actually both. What was that point in your life where you said, "Hey, I need to change"? There's something about me, whether it's mentally, spiritually, physically. Was it all of them, or was it the physical that hit you? I need to do better for myself.
It was, so I was 35 or 36 years old, just finished my annual physical with the department.
Okay.
And my youngest was maybe 2 or 3 years old at that time. So they wanted to start me on hypertension medications.
Oh, dang.
I have a family history of hypertension, but I also have a family history of cholesterol. And, when they start explaining all these things, and being a medic, I understand, the risk of stroke and all these other things. So you start kind of going down that. And so at the same time, I was also shopping for life insurance, and they do their own screening as well. Yeah. And the same issues came up in my life insurance screening. So kind of talked with the wife, and I said, there's no way I want to go on hypertension meds at 36 years old. There's got to be something I can do. I reached out to Kyle. At the same time, we were moving out of state.
Good move.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you say you commute, you're not talking 30 minutes.
No. So we lived in our trailer for 2 months while we were waiting for our house to be finished building. So kind of one of those mornings where you just kind of dread and get out of bed. I was sitting there doom scrolling through Instagram, and the Superhuman Fathers ad came up. One of he's now a coworker at my station, but one of the guys I've known for a while with the department came up, and I recognized him. And the guy's shredded like a Julian salad. Like, he is just not an ounce of fat on him. So, and he's there with Kyle, and I'm just like, holy, I got to get something straightened out. You know, I'm just feeling like crap sitting in a trailer. So, hit up Kyle and started down that path. And so, long story short, after I got my life insurance policy, and we were paying a pretty high rate on the policy, I lost the 70 pounds. I called him back up to explain to him, hey, look, you know, I want to get reevaluated. I think I can lower my premium. And they ended up dropping my premium by half.
Oh, wow.
Wow, nice.
And they offered me an extra 10 years on top of it because of the lifestyle changes that had happened. So, and that's without any medications and all this stuff. So, I mean, not only there was no even hint of hypertension any longer. My cholesterol was under control. So just in the matter of a year, I had gotten all this squared away. And trying to explain that to someone over the phone, when they look at this is a nurse that came out to my home and drew bloods and all this stuff and got me on the same scale. And they're like, wait, there's no way this is right. You're 70 pounds lighter now? I'm like, yeah. And so, you know, just trying to explain to them the same thing. Like, I didn't want to be that guy. I've worked with those guys that pee every 10 minutes because they're on the hypertension med, and they'd rather be on the med than spit out half a donut, you know?
Right. Make that sacrifice.
Make the sacrifice. I mean, I know what the maple bar is going to taste like.
Oh, dude.
They're so good, but right.
But you've had to see such
Blueberry.
okay, I'll be with you guys. Yeah, I also had a piece of apple. That's a weakness, man. It's such a weakness.
It's a small bite. If you cut it into like 10, you know.
Diet knife. Get the diet knife out.
Diet knife out.
And you cut the donut in half, you eat the whole donut, there's still less calories, right? Yeah. No, but that change that you've made physically, that's also had to take a positive change in what you think of yourself, right? As far as how you feel like internally and externally, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because as you go through this process, I never thought I'd be a guy that was body dysmorphia is a real thing, right? I mean, you start looking at yourself like, oh man, my goal was kind of like Cory talked about in his initial one. Like, I kind of gave myself this low bar for the initial goal with the Superhuman Fathers.
Yeah.
So once I hit that goal of getting down to 200 pounds, and I'm looking at myself, I'm like, I don't look all that much different than I did at 235. I mean, 35 pounds is a pretty significant amount, but a little bit of abdominal definition at that point. You know, your jaw's getting a little tighter, but you're starting to look at it like, man, I can really go further. And then you're down at 180. And then I'm looking at myself like, oh, well, I got 4 out of 6 abs.
Yeah.
I can probably hit all 6.
Yeah.
And then you start looking at it like, oh man, like if I had a beer last night, I can tell my love handle looks a little more bloated. So, I mean, you start dealing with this stuff, and I mean, you have different problems at that time. And so getting the balance of it, and we've talked about this a lot, and we were at a real low as far as calorie intake goes. And there's definitely a healthy median in there, but overall energy is way better. My relationship with my wife and my kids is way better than it was before. I'm not as irritable. Definitely more patient with them, and kind of like what we've gone through with our department, you know, with stress inoculation and things like that, by taking that time to be discomfort or uncomfortable in certain situations, both eating and lifting and all this stuff makes it easier to be more present for the family. So
that's good to hear, dude, because I've dealt with that. I grew up very chubby most of my life, and then, you know, once I became, you know, more an adult, I started with the Forest Service. You know, that's just pretty much hiking and running all the time. And then getting hired municipal, I started doing triathlons and then doing ultra marathons, running 50, 60 mile runs. And I remember kind of at the peak, I did this 62-mile run over here in Orange County, and I did well. I got 3rd place.
Are you part Kenyan?
Yeah, actually.
There we go.
Yeah.
Tim's got the tank.
Yeah. But I remember finishing that race, and that's when I was, you know, running a lot. And I was probably like 178 pounds, but I still looked at myself in the mirror and was like, you're chubby.
Right.
You need to lose more weight. It was such a weird thing to finally have to really grow out of and get through that.
Right.
That's why I always ask when I talk to people who have lost weight, like, hey, do you still deal with this? Like, when you look at yourself, do you still feel like that chubby fat kid or adult?
Or the fear of it, right? Like the fear of turning into that guy.
Yeah,
again.
absolutely.
And that's because you've put in all this hard work to get to this point. Right. It's funny because my last annual physical, the doctor looked at my stats on the paper, the consultation afterwards, and he's like, it says here you're at 3.5% body fat. This is usually the part where we start talking to our patients about bulimia and anorexia.
Yeah.
Look, but I'm the last guy you got to worry about all that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that you kind of, it messes with you mentally. And that's just another thing is, you're worried about the mental side of things in this line of work. But yeah,
No, I feel you. That's how come I asked that. Cause for me, I'll go out and run 50 miles. Let's go lift, swim, whatever. Let's have fun. But it's always in most of the parts of my life where I've struggled, it's been the mental aspect. I've always had a real hard time with that, of accepting things, accepting the change. Like, you're doing better. It's like, I want to keep going down to this level where like, oh, you're just a piece of crap. It's like, no, you've changed. You put in the work. Like, let's elevate yourself here and what you think of yourself. Have grace. And that's the biggest thing I've learned in myself is have grace in yourself, man.
right. No, totally.
I think that's like something that's, and I totally agree with you. I think that's the hardest part when it comes to any kind of, expectations of yourself, whether it's your body dysmorphia. Because like, dude, I'm absolutely that person. It doesn't matter if I've been in the best shape of my life. I'm like, oh, I feel fat.
Right.
I look fat. Or if someone takes a picture and I'm turned a certain way and there's like my stomach, I was like, I don't think I'm a fat. And I'm not dogging on this. I'm not in terrible shape, but to me, that's the only thing I could focus on. My wife hates it.
We're our own worst critics.
We'll take pictures and I'll be like, like it's a weird angle. And I'm like, oh my God, I look so fat right now. She goes, you're worse than me. I'm like, yeah, but you're lucky. You're one of those people. She eats like, pizza and loses weight. It's crazy. But anyway, but I also think that expectation of yourself is sometimes can be a bad thing. It also is what perpetuates you pushing yourself forward. Now, the key with that, though, is you allowing those, I don't want to say negativities, but a little bit. It's the chip on your shoulder that drives you moving forward.
The motivation.
Right? And then once you get to a point, I thought what you said was very interesting because it's like, the overall goal. You're like, okay, let's say if you said you're at 230, you're like, because I was at 225 when this is probably a year and a half ago. Damn. And it can't, that was the heaviest I'd ever been. And I can give you a million reasons of what I think are acceptable excuses, but they're not. And it was after doing the evaluation, physical evaluation. And when I got back, I had the same conversation with the doctor, and I was 37. And they're talking about going on cholesterol medication. And I didn't quite have hypertension issues, but it was above where it should have been.
Right.
And they're telling me, and all I've ever heard with, and not knocking people that are on those medications, but it was like, oh, if you take cholesterol meds, you might have like erectile dysfunction issues. You might have this. And I already have like low testosterone for my age anyway. So I kind of am like thinking like, nah, I don't want this to happen to me. I'm too young for this. What's going on? Blah, blah,
just
blah.
another thing, right?
But when so it's like I immediately basically crash dieted myself to a healthier weight or what I thought was, better for me. And, it's like once you kind of get where you're going, now you start getting super analytical about the other things. It's like, okay, yeah, I don't have, I fit like the 34s that I wear are now a little bit loose on me, whereas before I was like,
right.
And then putting that on, like I can still fit them. Look, that's a finger length. And just all these stupid things, that you're constantly using, whether they're influential to help you make that change, or once you get the change that you initially set out for, it's still not good enough. And I feel like there's that happy medium of where you're like, look, you have to be able to be graceful in your success, because that is a successful thing. Whether you're doing it for aesthetics, you're doing it because you're worried about your health or your family, longevity, whatever. But you do need to be like, hey, good for you. Now, that doesn't mean go back to what you were doing before.
Right.
Because I would smash 2 apple fritters and a cup of coffee and an energy drink, and then 3 hours later go have,
a habit or something else, right?
100%. And, but I did good this week.
Well,
right. And you're like, okay. And not saying the one-offs, right? Because you used the reference earlier I thought was great. You're like 2 months for 2 days because 100%.
Right.
You crushed it every other day and you ate like shit on Christmas Day or Thanksgiving or whatever those.
It's a win.
So it's a win because who cares in one day?
It's a net positive for sure.
Right. And I just, sorry, circling back to where this even started was having, I think that's a lot of people struggle with that of having the ownership of being like, yeah, you can also be successful as well as continue the push.
Well,
and those two things don't have to be separate.
No, they're not mutually exclusive. And like I've talked with Cory about, we were really bad at moderation in the beginning, right? Like that's why we got to being overweight and not working out, or our diet was a mess. And it can get to be the other side of the spectrum of being really bad at moderation, where you're not enjoying those things in life either. Like you're not.
That's a good point.
So you got to find that happy medium somewhere in the middle where you are still doing the things you need to do. You're taking care of yourself, and that allows you to take care of the family, right? I mean, we always preach in the fire service that, you got to take care of the responders have to get there in order to take care of the emergency, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to take care of yourself in order to be present for your family. And that's the end goal of this, is to be there for our families in retirement, to be there and present and healthy. I don't want to be the granddad or the dad that's in a wheelchair, at 55. So,
seen it,
dude,
yeah.
right. Mm-hmm. So, or injured all the time. So that's one of the things, is just that was the driving factor, was seeing where it was, the markers, and try to improve them and just keep pushing them.
Yeah. Now, Cory, so people kind of understand who maybe not have heard your episode,
Mm-hmm.
you had a turning point in your life as well.
I did.
What was that turning point for you to finally, say, I need to get better internally, physically, emotionally, everything? What was that turning point?
Well, I'm a little bit older than you guys are. And I was actually, when I first started, my daughter wasn't pregnant yet, so I didn't know I was going to be a grandfather. But during my journey, I knew that I was going to be a grandfather. Just a brief recap of the last time. I was extremely overweight. I was extremely unhappy. I was depressed. I was unhealthy. My labs were coming back poor as well. Cholesterol, fatty liver, reflux, all of that. And I got to a point where I was becoming more and more unhappy. And you talk about not liking pictures. My kids are older now, so I realized I had a decade of pictures without me in them. Because I was so unhappy with how I felt and how I looked, and you could see it all over my face. Or my wife. My wife and I have been together. We're just about to hit our 8-year wedding anniversary. But 9 years. So most of that time I was extremely unhappy with myself, and we didn't have a lot of pictures either. It's not like we have a long history together.
Yeah.
So there was a lot less documented history of my life, especially with my wife and my kids, than I would have liked. And because I was so depressed, I was sedating with alcohol, and I was detaching from my family. And when I was home, we did have a staffing crisis going on. I was not home a lot. And when I was home, I was doing everything I could to shut my brain off. And so I hit that point where, sadly, I'd actually given up on trying to change it, because I'd had so many failed attempts that I just told myself that, well, this is it. You're almost 50. It is what it is. And I started thinking about retirement and what is that going to look like? And for those of you that don't know, I've been in the pipes and drums for the last 20 years.
Heck yeah, you have.
And I've been to countless funerals, more than I care to even recall. And every year we call it memorial season. We do the memorial for our agency. We do our state memorial. We do the IAFF memorial in Colorado. And then there's also the national memorial out in Emmitsburg. So I've put hundreds, if not thousands. I've been present there when their names get put up on memorial walls. And the majority of them were way too young. But a good mix of them aren't, when you think line of duty death, you think building collapse or, a flashover or something like that. A lot of it's just from heart, from how we treat our bodies. We're not in the greatest of shape. So the cardiac arrest is the major killer of firefighters, leading cause of death, line of duty deaths, and so many of these stories, tragically, they're just a couple years after they retire. What was that statistic you were saying?
I don't know the exact number, but I think I heard something like the average retiree from fire pulls 21 paychecks. So, and that's monthly paychecks. So that's a little less than 2 years.
Dude, 21?
That's
terrible.
It's horrible.
Yeah. So
Wow.
So I got to a point where I felt like crap, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not even 50 yet. What is 70 going to feel like? And am I even going to make it there?
do you want to make? Yeah. I mean,
What's that quality of life going to be? And I was fortunate in that I didn't seek out the accountability program that I came across. It found me and dragged me along, kicking and screaming. Like it was just, it was one of those, just, I don't know. I guess it was just meant to be. It was just fate. I came across Superhuman Fathers. I found it, something really resonated with me. And then it was like a switch was flipped and I just became an insane, just intentional savage and never look back. And hence the name for our program is both the same thing, or it happened to both of us, where you flip the switch and you're able to turn it on and get after it. For me, it was just, I was in an extremely unhappy place in my life. And I had kind of given up on trying to improve it. I thought that it was impossible. I knew how much weight I needed to lose. I had told myself that I will never be able to be happy with myself unless I do lose that weight. But I also had convinced myself that it was impossible to lose that amount of weight. So therefore I was stuck, right? I'd backed myself into a corner that I couldn't get out of. And I quickly learned it's not just about the weight. It's not what the scale says. You know, it's the mindset, the discipline, the daily habits, the showing up in other areas of your life versus just it's not just about the gym. This isn't about becoming a gym bro.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
This is about doing hard shit day after day and proving to yourself that you're capable of doing it. And after having given up on yourself, and then to have that epiphany that I'm not done. I'm not fucking done. My best days are not in my rearview mirror. They're in my windshield.
Hell yeah.
And then becoming a grandfather right at the same time I got in the best shape of my life. I got posted and I became a grandfather and got posted on social media as, hey, look at this, at like 5% body fat within 2 days of each other.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, like I said last time, it's not about the 6-pack abs. It's about the rest of the stuff I learned along the way, that I was able to be present in a way at the hospital for my daughter, my son-in-law, and my grandson. I was able to be present in a way that I would not have been able to do prior. And now I see every day with my grandson. Sorry.
No, it's awesome.
This is a place for it, man.
I just see it as such a gift every time I get to hold that little guy, you know?
And you're going to get more days doing it now because of the shit that you're in, and you're not sedated. You're going to be conscious and present. That's huge.
Yeah, that's well, one, thank you for sharing that. And I do remember like we were talking about that last time, just, you know, kind of things happen in life, you know, maybe for a reason, you know, I believe things happen for a reason, but whatever your spiritual perspective is different for everybody. But, you know, it's kind of like, it's great to hear like that, you know, it's like, I'm jumbling this up. I'm so sorry.
Doing good, man.
When you're,
I got it.
Spit it out.
No, but at the end of the day, it's like, look, you know, you whatever that catalyst, I use that term all the time, right? Because whatever that changes or the epiphany that you had, You know, I think there's a lot of people that have extraordinarily similar circumstances that they do that to themselves. I'm 100% victim of that. You know, and whatever, if it's substance abuse or, you know, alcoholism or gambling or anything that you do that you've convinced yourself that I can't get out of this because X, Y, and Z. You've already lost that side mentally.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's perpetuating unhealthy habits, if it's extra weight gain, if it's just how you feel, depression, and most of the time, all those things work simultaneously. And, you know, it's unfortunate because not everyone has that epiphany. Not everyone has that catalyst that happens in their life that maybe they get the opportunity to change it from that point moving forward. And I think it's very specific to in our workspace because it's predominantly what I've done in my entire adult life. But I've been around a lot of people in that way, you know, and to certain extents, I feel like I've been one of them. And, you know, you constantly create the bullshit. You create the excuse, and you see people around you sometimes that have that success, and you kind of think, man, that's cool, but maybe it's just not going to be me. And you might tell yourself that, but at the end of the day, when no one's looking, you still make the same stupid decisions, right? So it's like, what is it that you find that like you're done? I'm done. Line in the sand. This is it. Moving forward. And I think that all of us have a responsibility to that extent, and not just obviously with the business side of it moving forward. And that's the appealing part of it, is that you're laying out a foundational plan, even though if you say it's old school, right? You know, we're doing the work, accountability for yourself, calories, you know, making sure you're in a certain thing, how much you work out, all that's great. But you have to sell you can do it. And it's like, then that takes you to the next step of like, well, what is it? What is that thing? Are you the David Goggins? Are you like CT
Stay
Fletcher?
whore.
Yeah.
Carry the boats.
Yeah. I was like, one more motherfucking set. You know what I mean? And that, I like that. That's me personally.
Right.
But maybe Tim doesn't like that. Or maybe someone else that you're around doesn't like that. And so the in your face, don't be a, wuss, maybe doesn't work. But you have the opportunity now being around these, other individuals that may be seeking that kind of lifestyle, but they're, not there yet. I think having that kind of broader spectrum of like, look, it doesn't have to be like you have to hate your life, you have to hate yourself to get to a spot of taking the next step. Maybe it's just like, hey, look, you have we're sitting across from very good examples of maybe different spectrums where you were at and for the reasons why, but you've been able to adhere to something. And it's just really rad to hear like out loud. And then like, dude, the perspective stuff of now you've gotten to a spot where you can appreciate what you've done for yourself. And now you're at the spot where your presence is now appreciating the things that you have, being a grandfather. I can't, I'm still early in the dad game, but I can only imagine one day. And the goal is I want to be there for that day that I can have grandkids and have that same experience of like, dude, life is awesome. And look at all the things that I should, I'm so appreciative of having around me.
Yeah. Well, not to mention he's a grandfather with a six-pack. I mean, that's pretty rad too.
It is cool. I didn't want to seem too much of a fanboy, Cory, but I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, it's I really appreciate you, both of you, being so open. It's really cool because people need to see that. We're not just this, I feel like there's always that persona of people who are in public service, like we've got it figured out.
Yeah.
Maybe we do well with ourselves because we're first responders and we help people, but we still have our own issues. We still have things that we have to deal with. And one thing that I've noticed over time, just being in this career for 16 years, and even with crazy injuries that I've had, skydiving, seeing people pass away, what we're all fighting for is time. And that's the one thing that we can't get back.
Exactly.
It's priceless. We can always go make more money. You can have more things. But at the end of the day, when your life is over, you're not taking your career, you're not taking your money, you're not taking your possessions, and none of that's going to be there for you besides your family. When it's your time, your card's punched, your loved ones hopefully are going to be there. Hopefully you've cultivated something at your home that's loving and caring. But by being in shape, by the example that you're setting, both of you, and even being a grandfather, is you're giving yourself time. And that's priceless. Time to see your grandkids grow, to spend the later years of your life with your wife and enjoying those years, and seeing your daughter grow with her family. Those are things that you cannot put a price tag on. And I've tried to explain that to so many people is, dude, I've seen people die. We've all been there in their last moments. I've never, ever heard one person say, I wish I had more money. I wish I had another promotion.
Right.
It's time.
It's not funny, but
but it's true. No, it's totally true.
Very
It's
accurate. Yeah.
No one's ever asking for all this stuff, and what staying healthy and taking care of yourself mentally, physically, maybe spiritually for anybody else, whatever you believe in. But the importance of that goes so much farther than people ever realize.
Yeah.
You know, my parents, they're getting older. My dad's 82. He looks like he's freaking 58. He's a very in shape man. And that's because in his life, he was a Green Beret for 20 plus years. So he has the discipline. He has that regimen. He's 82. He still gets up. He does 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, 50 air squats, walks a mile, and
Hell
goes
yeah.
surfs.
Let's go.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
dude. And he's fit and he's around. He gets to see his 8 grandkids, and some are now in college, some are in the military. You know, so
And
he's
you know
bought
what's
himself
cool though
time.
too? Not just being able to see him, but I can only imagine that there has to be 1 or 2 of his grandkids that say, I want to be like him.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, my brother's little boys.
Yeah.
Dude, they're just like Papa all day. Papa, Papa, Papa. You know, they want to join the military and they're always running around in camouflage and doing stuff. But the point is what you've done for yourself of putting in the work, having the discipline, understanding, hey, I need to change because if I don't, I'm not going to be here.
Yeah.
And I want to be here. I mean, I tell everybody I've had ups and downs in life and I had some hard lows, and hope is a hell of a thing. Hope will keep you going. And any day above the dirt is a damn good day.
Yep.
So make it count, make it worth it. You know, we got one shot at this life. It is, as we all know, it's here and gone.
Yep.
I mean, it's like that, dude. It's quick. Your kids are grown. You have grandkids. I've known Jordan since we got hired together years ago. We're surfing, having fun, and I'm watching him be a dad, and I love it. I'm just like, whoa, this is crazy, you know, but it goes so fast.
Yeah.
You know, and the way to keep yourself around and healthy is to have the discipline to do what you guys, both of you, have done.
Hope is not a strategy. You have to do the work.
Yes.
You've got to put the work in.
Yeah.
And you talk about time. So much of my career has been spent chasing dollars, prestige, accolades, rank, stature, all of that.
Yeah.
I need to do more. I'm not doing enough. I'm not important enough. Well, you worry about that at work, but not at home. And I'm having these mindset changes now, especially as I approach retirement. I plugged in my numbers, and once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right.
I'm leaving in 3 years.
Good. Very good.
I'm not going to chase anything anymore. If anything, I have an even greater opportunity to help those around us in our department, just in a different way. Instead of being the company officer that's going to teach you how to do a certain skill or whatever. Now it's like, hey, when we're talking about time, I'm leaving in 3 years. If you were going to take a cross-country trip with your family, what's the vehicle you want to do it in? Do you want to do it in a 64 Volkswagen Bug that's been on blocks in somebody's yard for the last 30 years? Or do you want a nice, brand new Duramax 3/4 ton diesel with a nice trailer behind it that you know is going to get you to the finish line and get your family there?
Yeah.
Versus, and when I say vehicle, it's just an analogy for
your body.
For your body. What body was I prepared to take into retirement just 2 years ago?
Yeah.
It's something that was not going to give me the best chance of getting to the finish line. So we just want to impact those that were stuck just like we were.
Yeah.
Hey, look what we did. We can help you do the same. Because I know what that feels like. I can look into that guy's eyes and I know what he says to himself when he looks in the mirror.
Well, we actually have a retiree in our group that we're working with, that we're coaching, and just the differences and changes that he's made in the past 4 to 6 months have been huge. And he's talking about how he was kind of going down some paths with some substances, and getting away from that and having a purpose again. He wasn't lacking purpose, but he's up earlier than we were. He told us from the beginning that, I don't need to get up. My kids are older, grown, out of the house. I can work out any time of the day and not impact anyone.
Yeah.
And he's the guy that's posting in our group of,
He's awake before me sometimes.
Right. Even with
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
he
swear to
doesn't go
God.
bed, is what you're saying. Right? These guys have it like 3:30,
He's older,
4
yeah.
o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning.
Goes to bed at 4, but it's also up at 4. Yeah.
Matlock, dinner.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, for sure. But and
Murder,
that's-
She Wrote.
he's realizing that he's lost 20 pounds or so.
Yeah.
40 pounds, somewhere in that neighborhood. And
Dude, that's awesome.
but he's realizing the pros of it, the benefit, he's extending that clock. He can't take the time back, but you can keep that clock running. We can keep that clock going as long as we possibly can. So, and the quality of life that we're getting in that clock is a lot better.
Yeah.
So no, and that's the nice thing about this too, is with doing what we're doing, we have this group of men. So during those hard times where it's hard to find that mental strength for the consistency, like you were talking about, Jordan, that there's guys that have either been through that or going through it or will have gone through it in this group, and they can offer that expertise or experiences or help each other out through these hard times. And it's an app still at the end of the day, but it's that connection that you have with other guys in this group that are primarily first responders. They're trying to get their life or their health together, and you can message back and forth and kind of show and demonstrate what you're doing to help out in these times. Like on the strike team we were on together back in August. I mean, I was talking to the guy that's going out on one of these recent ones, and I'm like, hey dude, every gas station stop, I was grabbing 2 to 3 protein shakes a day just to help meet those caloric, because a ham sandwich and some Cheez-Its ain't going to cut it out there. So
4 Uncrustables,
Right.
8 pounds of trail mix.
right.
I just took no one eats the pickle. And like that's one thing.
You're so crazy.
I don't know if that was something like I learned.
Pickle, huh? Oh, hot in there. It's so big. And I'm like,
Okay, first of all, no, like I would say 90% of people with the brown bag lunches, no one eats the pickle.
No.
I happen to be a fan of pickles, so
I like pickles too.
I throw them in the cooler.
I'd fight you for it.
Oh, so yeah, well, hey, then if we're ever on one together,
25
we'll
pickles.
share.
We'll share the
We'll split
pickles.
them and we'll be money. But it's funny because like those are the lunches you get, and as
Right.
far as availability, which is understandable depending on what your operations
Right.
period is and stuff. But even in that, like for me, like and I'm surprised we really didn't talk about this while we're out there, because
Right.
like I'm absolutely the person that goes, I was eating good until like we got here.
But here I am.
And here
so,
I am, but
yeah.
it's like Cheez-Its
Right.
because they're my favorite snack food, and Uncrustables and all this stuff. And then I felt better because I'd be like, well, I had like 6 pickles today.
Yeah.
That's a calorie.
I have the fruit cup. At
Hey, they're
breakfast.
cucumbers,
Yeah.
right?
They are.
They're vegetables.
Yeah. And you get the
better pickle.
solid
Hydration,
potassium in there.
right.
Yeah, there's believe me, I can bullshit the factors and make it seem positive, but it's coming up with a game plan, right?
Right.
And like so you're saying, like anytime when you're running in there getting protein powder, I'm buying like rolls of Zins because I'm like, I need it, right? Which is a whole other problem that I would like to get rid of. But anyway,
This guy cut it.
he did. I know.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, man. And I actually
2.5 years cold turkey.
I was utilizing this transition of the new station I'll be at to be
The starting point.
going for it.
Yeah. Good for you.
That's a horrible station to do that at.
It is.
You're gonna be bored out of your mind.
But that's part of the challenge, I think, in that. And then I'm just gonna chew a lot of gum. And,
Yeah. Count squirrels and yeah.
Yeah, and whittle. I like to carve things, I guess. But one thing I do want to ask you guys. So, if no one knows, name your company, where to find you, how to get interested, and obviously not just word of mouth between the fire department, extending out to other first responders. What's the best way to do that?
The company is called Intentional Savage Fitness, and the reason for the name is, you do savage things. You do change your life in a savage way, but it's with the savage intent. Not everyone says, "Oh, look at him," or "Oh my God, that guy's a savage. I could never do that. He's lucky." We're not lucky. Nobody looked at us 2 years ago when we were at our absolute heaviest and most miserable and said, he's lucky. No, we put in the work. It was the intent. We were intentional about everything that we did. And yes, we were not perfect. We blew it. But we had the intention and the ability and now the discipline to, when we did fall off, to get ourselves back on track. So Intentional Savage Fitness, you can find us on Instagram at Intentional Savage Fitness. Like I was explaining earlier, we didn't actually intend, I guess we weren't intentional savages, about it wasn't our plan to get this company going so soon, this group going so soon. So we're building the plane as we fly it right now. So
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
So we're grassroots, we're getting it off the ground, but Instagram is going to be the best way for doing so.
Okay. Nice. That's awesome.
Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I did. I was
Wait,
like,
what?
well, I feel like my brain works as like a slideshow.
Yeah, no,
It's like I get a question queue pop up, and I'm like, okay, that'd be good.
Yeah.
And then-
So if I could just tag on to that.
Yeah.
please.
So the next natural question is, okay, that's your company, but what is it exactly?
Yeah.
And I realized last time I was here, I never even really explained what Superhuman Fathers was. So what our company is, it's an online fitness and nutrition coaching and accountability with a community aspect to it, an accountability group. So like I said, I got super curious about why were these things being effective for me? So I started educating myself on them. I got certified in the macronutrition. I've also gotten certified in the workout programming. Ross is also educating himself on all that.
Excellent.
So we know the reasons why
Right.
it worked for us. So we will program your macros for you,
Right.
teach you how to track them. We will hold you accountable to tracking them. Ross will program your workouts. It'll be customized based on what your capabilities are, what your fitness goals are, what you're comfortable with doing, your injuries, your age, all of that. And that will be app-based to where you can log in. It takes the guesswork out. You don't have to go to the gym and say, I'm going to do the same workouts I've done for the last 10 years.
What should I do today?
Yeah. It just, you show up, you click on it and you go, awesome. I'm going to do this workout. And there's even customization that you can do on the fly if you want to swap out a workout or whatever.
I was just going to ask, do you guys have like flexibility as far as what you're, because like even for myself, like at home, I have a Peloton bike.
Right.
That's it. I don't have weights and anything like that.
When I first started, I lost the majority of my 60 pounds just by doing in-garage workouts with bands and some basic dumbbells. I mean, I wasn't doing
Excellent.
a whole lot of stuff in a gym.
Damn it. You know how many people's excuses you just stole
I know.
right there?
And
Yeah, you totally.
I was like,
What
guilty.
an asshole.
Yeah. And that's the hard part. And I mean, a lot of it, nutrition is 90% of it. That just getting that dialed in, but the workouts are great. That's what's going to build the muscle tone, and that's what's going to help keep the metabolism going throughout the day. But I mean, we even have vacation workouts with bands that you can do. So you can throw a pack of bands from Amazon, in your bag for $35, and you have something to do. I was working out at the gym near my station this morning, and they don't have all the equipment. So you can go in through the app and actually substitute for what they don't have, work in a similar muscle group. It even tracks, the app's great. It tracks what you did last week or the previous week. So you can see how you're progressing. So there's that kind of reinforcement through it there too. And then there's the community whole side of the thing. So if you're going on a trip down to Costa Rica for a surf trip or something like that, but still want to, you're still going to be tracking and kind of keeping on it, maybe not as tight as you are at home. There's guys, you can reach out to the community there, and it's kind of like the comment section of any Instagram or Facebook or something like that. Like, hey, I'm going down on a surf trip. What do you guys recommend? And that's the great thing about this is versus like the ketos and the paleos of the past, where you really didn't have much guidance besides maybe a book that was printed a year or two prior. There's people that are working with us in our line of work. So guys that have been on strike teams, the guys that are commuting, guys that are in the station at busy houses, guys that are in the station at slow houses, they have all these pointers of, hey, this is what I've done to be successful to help out. So that's kind of the nice part of this too, is this community that is built into the Intentional Savage Fitness and this app is there's that reaching out and the accountability of holding each other accountable for what we're doing.
Yeah. So We are downloaded, like I said, globally. Can somebody who is listening to this that is outside of the country be involved with us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. As long as they speak English or have the ability to translate the videos that we put up or our instructions. But yeah, you can do it from anywhere. I've done it myself in other countries.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, the community-based portion of this, you can leverage not only just the other members in the program, but you also have 24/7 access to Ross and myself. So if you when you have those questions on your macros, when you need something customized for your workout, when you just, sometimes a lot of it's mindset related. When you're having those down moments, the community is great. I got so much from the Zoom calls because you almost don't want to speak out, because if you're new to the journey and you're still having you haven't had any wins yet or any large wins, and then you have somebody that's towards the end of their, not the end, but has had a lot of success. Let's say you're catching Ross or myself towards, after we had already been in for a year. Well, you see that guy, and if you're new, you hadn't seen their struggle, you don't know what they went through, and you think, oh, that guy's lucky. That guy just gets it. Well, then that guy shows up on a Zoom and says, man, I completely shit the bed. I had this happen with my family. And a lot of times it's not just about food. Like, oh, I ate a burger today. It's like, no, I came home from work. This is me 3 days ago. Came home from work. I was up all night. I literally got no sleep. We got pummeled. And I was driving home, or I was going to my station to put my gear away. And I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but I do that a lot.
You're good.
2 weeks prior, we'd been on a fatality on the freeway, a 19-year-old. I have a 19-year-old son. It affected me, and I had conversations with my wife about it. I'm driving home, and I'm passing the area where that fatality was. And I see a car pulled over, and I see a woman over on the side of the freeway kneeling at the wall where the event happened. And I knew as soon as I saw her, I said, that's his mom.
Wow.
That has to be his mom.
Yeah.
And instinctively, I started pulling over. And then I started fighting with myself. What are you doing? What are you going to say? Why would you pull over? It's unsafe. You'll get killed.
Yeah.
And so I literally pulled back into the shoulder 3 times. Ultimately, I talked myself into continuing on. And then as soon as I recommitted back to the freeway, I thought, it is dangerous out there. I can't let her get killed as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to do, but at least I have a big truck. I can try and protect her while she mourns.
Yeah.
So I ended up circling back. I came back up and around, and I parked back there, and I got out of my car, and God, everything's just whizzing by, and you're like, oh, this is not a good place to be. And I'm walking up to her, and I'm like, this is a mistake. This is a mistake. This is a mistake. What are you doing? And I got to her, and I vapor locked. I didn't even know what to say. And I just said, you're his mother, aren't you? She said, yeah. And both of us just stood there and kind of stared at each other. And the vacant, hollow look in her eyes, I'll never forget. And I said, I know there's nothing I can say. I know you just want to be here to be with where your son was last.
Yeah.
I said, but it's extremely unsafe. I'll stay here for a little bit. I'll stay parked right here. Just do your thing. but you can't stay here. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if something happened to you.
Yeah.
So I got back in my truck. I gave her moment's peace. She got back in her car and we both left. So that was pretty heavy, right?
Oh yeah. That's a moment.
And I was sleep deprived.
Right.
And I get home and I have this process I came up with to try and check myself at the door so I don't ruin my only days off at home. I did. I exploded. I exploded as soon as the littlest instigator happened. I completely snapped. And like I have this whole mantra: be present, be patient, be present, be ready. And that's the be ready is breathe, reorient, evaluate, anticipate, and align with your values. Decide how you're going to act, and then yield. Yield to everybody else in the house because it's not about me. Because I haven't been home. Yeah. I'm the stranger there. Right. So I'm not perfect still.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I get home and I still blow it. But the goal is it's not just about calories and the workout. It's about the mindset. It's about being present. It's about just trying to be the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
But
we still fall off.
Oh, yeah.
And we still have to recover.
But I mean, you reached out to the group and kind of explained the basics of what was going on that day. I mean, and there's guys that reached out from within the group of, hey, you know, everything from guys that are similar, just, you know, sorry it happened, to guys that have some pretty in-depth psychology backgrounds. They're, you know, are offering some suggestions. Reach out, give us a call. You know, so that's the nice thing is this group is there for each other, and it's kind of whatever you need. I mean, if Cory needed to reach out to any one of us, he knows it's there. And it's a group of guys that really do care. Or if it's just getting it off his chest, it's like, you know what, I messed up. I know what I need to do, and I'm going to reorient and keep going forward. But I mean, that's the nice thing is you have this group of guys there that aren't going to cast judgment. We've all been in the same boat as Cory. I mean, we've all come home and blown it up and made things worse. Yeah. So
absolutely.
If you say you haven't, you're lying.
Right.
Yeah. I 100% don't believe you, or I think you're a psychopath.
Right. There's no way.
We're all, that's the most human response. And
it's understandable. But our families usually don't get it. And that's the hard part is trying to, you know, you have this group that they understand where you're coming from, and we've all been in that same boat. And I think there's a couple really good suggestions, something about even writing a letter, and even if you don't deliver it, at least you're getting it off your chest, and now you can move forward. So I mean, there's a lot of good information, and these guys have a lot of experience messing things up. We're really good at it.
Yeah. So really, what it's more than just staying, you know, fitness and getting healthy. You're kind of cultivating a community.
Yeah.
Is what's coming from this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Where it's not just keeping you on track with your physical fitness and eating what you're putting in your mouth, but it's also your daily life.
Well-rounded.
The struggles that we have as men, or as say women that are on there too. Like, we're human. You're human, right? I've had days where I come home, I think the same thing, Cory. I'm gonna be good. Like, I just need to go surf. I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
I get my surfing. I feel like I'm great. I come home and it's like something happens or falls on the ground. You're just like, and you lose it, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, whoa, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
Like, what happened there?
Or you sit in the truck just not wanting, like, I gotta go in.
Yeah. So to be able to, you know, what's the good thing about having this with Jordan and other things I'm involved in is I do have a really strong knit, very small, tight group of people. It's probably only 4 or 5. Not a lot of people have that. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people have people they can open up to and be completely honest without casting judgment. And let's be real, in our line of work, this dude's judge, bro. Yeah. As soon as they hear dirt, next thing you know, the station on the farther side of the county knows.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting text messages.
Firemen on the day off now, right?
Yeah, and you're like, hey, man, I told you that in confidence for some help here, right? So I'm real careful.
Confession.
Those are my paintings, Todd.
So to have that, I think it's beautiful. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be able to. These emotions that we have as humans, that's God-given. That's in you to be able to work through stressful times, hard times, joy, letdown. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be upset. But you got to learn how to let that out appropriately and be able to talk to the correct people that you trust. You can't tell everybody everything.
Nope.
That's That's the way of the world, man. You can't trust everyone.
Or
And
go
I've
on a
learned that the hard
podcast and tell about how you just messed up one of your only days off.
I think
Honesty is good.
But dude, that story I think is
It'll resonate.
you know, and I know the call you're talking about, and having, you know, interactions when you're involved with something, let's say it doesn't go the right way, or someone loses a loved one or whatnot, and then you come across that person, and it's always like mine always it seems to be like the grocery store or something, when we're shopping for food, and it just recently happened or whatever, and like, you know, I think that's cool that what you did, and like when you're saying you're like pumping back and forth and pulling over, like I'm the same way. I'm like, I'm not one to like want to get off the freeway, especially because of scenarios that can lead to what had happened. And but you know, you have this like empathetic response sometimes, you know, for whatever that connection is with these people that you don't even know, and how that piggybacked off of the nightless sleep going into the next day, whether it's an attitude adjustment or it's very easy to not follow suit with a daily regiment when you are in those positions, which, you know, happens to us a lot. You know, it's like, okay, I was going to come home and work out and then do this and do that and do this and do that. And next thing you know, it's like you come home, you're 3 seconds into the house, you're pissed off because something's on the floor or whatever the case is. My kid, one kid screams a certain way. There's a certain pitch that nothing even has to be about.
Right.
I just immediately am mad, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's not right, and it's, you know, and I like the acronym with the yielding, right? Because you're yielding, and I'm not good at it, but I try, you know, and I want to be better, and you know, all that kind of stuff. But I think having your ability to open the networking within that app you're talking about, like that's half the struggle, you know. Yeah. And you know what's cool is like you're going to be like, I don't want to say like-minded, but essentially like-minded, because you have common goals, or at least
similar circumstances.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? And like what Tim's saying, like, I'm not saying to run into a station that you don't know anybody and be like, here's all my problems.
Right.
Because more than likely it's not going to be received very well.
Yeah.
And I have been on both ends of that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So where I was the one blurting out stuff, then all of a sudden now people I thought I told in confidence aren't, you know things about me I didn't want. Or I've heard people go, I don't even know you. I'm like, damn, dude. Like, you know, like, do you need a hug? I guess, you know, which probably wouldn't have been bad. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think that format, and then I didn't know you had the capacity of the video conference style or Zoom or whatever.
That's rad.
We do a weekly Zoom.
Yeah.
See, that's really cool. And yeah, anyway, I think like what a great deal. Because I know with a lot of popular, whether it's social media or anything along those lines, you know, you might as well be posting things on Reddit, because the world will will just basically take you down, because inherently the keyboard warriors out there don't want to empathize with you. They want to make you look stupid because it makes the inferior people feel powerful. But I think that's super rad, being able to do that and like kind of bounce things off one another.
Yeah.
And so much needed, because everything that you said about that day, I'd be like, dude, someone tell me something good. Is anyone having a good day out there?
Yeah.
You know, then normally I'll text him. He's like, I was skydiving, I was surfing today. I was like, okay, cool. There are things going in what I think's supposed to happen.
The point that I was trying to make with that before I circled the airport quite a few times, I'll land my plane now, is there might be somebody in there that you think has it all together. And especially being in our program now, us as the coaches, you might falsely elevate us to this level of having it all figured out.
Yeah.
But the things that always had the greatest impact on me was when I would go to those Zooms and there would be somebody that I thought had it all figured out was struggling with the same thing that I was. So when you hear that person that you're putting on a pedestal, open up, be vulnerable, and say, hey, I completely screwed this up. And you're like, oh, I screwed that up too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did. Oh, okay. So this guy who I thought has it all together still wrestles with these things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't give you permission to go say, oh, well, he does it, so I can go screw it up too. But you, like you were saying earlier, it helps you have that little bit of, give yourself a little grace that, oh, I don't have to be perfect. I'm going to try.
Yeah. Try your best.
But I don't have to be perfect. And look, this guy does it too. So it's not permission to screw up, hey, honey, it's okay if I'm an asshole to you because Cory was.
You know, it doesn't ever work. It doesn't ever work. Not one time have I had that approach. And it's been like, today was a good day.
Yeah. But God, I was so upset with myself because for so long, I've always worked so much overtime and our staffing crisis and the captains have been getting just hammered for years that when we're at work, you get FOMO. And especially with social media, you see your family living their best life while you're at work and you get jealous or envious or whatever. And all we want to do is be home. I just want to be home. I'm here on a 96. I can't wait to go home. I just want to be home. And then we get home and we just get in our own way. We just step in it, you know, and it's our fault.
But not to justify it, but imagine how Cory a year and a half ago would have handled it. I mean, Cory a year and a half ago may have even stopped off at the bar on the way home. And
well, yeah, I mean, it didn't look much different. I'm going to tell you that. That was a particular one, but there definitely were other instances where I've handled them way different, and I've avoided ruining my days off, or I was able to go have a great day with my family because I was able to hit the brakes, pause, and filter my response in alignment with my values before the monster came out. But there were no brakes the other day. The brakes were out.
But that's the thing, is because no one's perfect, and that's that's the reality of it. And even in the successful journey of self-realization and success for what you're, what you guys are doing, and or just not even, I shouldn't say you guys, just as the individual, right? The reality is life's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's relentless. And your expectation of what you think's going to happen, you probably got a 40% accuracy rate with that.
Yeah,
in that. Right? Because there's only so many things you can control the day. You can't control the calls that you happen. You can't control the fact that you don't sleep. You can't control the fact that you have a staffing crisis. You get forced on a 96. Everything that you said is 100% true. Yeah. I like work. I like the people I work with. I enjoy the job to a certain extent. But I'm there for more than 24 hours, and the only thing I can think about is getting home. And it's ironic that it takes sometimes 30 seconds of walking into the door where instead of me being like, yes, I'm home, I'm going, damn it, why didn't this happen? Why are we doing this? Da, 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 da. And it's like all of a sudden you start spouting things out and you're thinking, well, that escalated quickly. That was not my intention. I mean, my intentions were not to be this way, but yet you find yourself in that situation. Now, is it repetitive? Is it all the time? You can ask my wife. My wife will agree that it is a lot of the time, but and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I just mean that we can only control so many things, but it's why it is so important to have that strategy of life, the approach, and not just talking about eating good and working out and living a healthy lifestyle, but having the mental approach and taking that time. Hey, that self-reflection period, you run down your chart. I normally exhale for 10 seconds and shake, because I don't know, when I was a kid, the whole shake it off thing, I always kind of used that my entire life, even when no one's looking. So that's kind of actually embarrassing. But whatever your reset is, right, to change up the approach, and by having the stronger value system, by having the accountability, by being able to do the hard things consistently, and the savage approach to accomplishing stuff in life, is important, because even when you hit all of those things, shit still is hard. And, and it's like, and then and honestly, going back to what you guys got, having the forum, having the ability to communicate with other people that have, hey, if I would have saw that, you saying something, I'd be like, bro, it's going to be okay. I've experienced, I can, I'm sure we can all laundry list it. You know what I mean?
Hey, Jordan, could one of you guys please apologize to my wife for me?
I think they have something close to that. They call it ChatGPT. Okay. They can put you in a framework of possibly getting out. But no, anyway.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming out. I really, really love what you guys are doing. And it's really cool that you also took the time to get the certifications that you needed, because there's actually an Instagram account. I think it's Instagram, one of the social media sites. This guy's all about calling out people who aren't certified and trying to sell stuff for fitness online. It just total hacks. So it's legit. It's through and through. You have your certifications. You put in the work and the time. You're also both living proof of what proof of your own success of what you've been doing, the sacrifice, the hard work. So we're going to be in full support of you guys.
Thank you.
We will actually talk to you after about this, about making a commercial and keeping it on here as a quote unquote sponsorship just to help you guys.
Oh, heck yeah.
Thank you.
We'll get
Thank
that
you.
going.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Ding, ding.
Hit that thing.
Give me the ding. There we go.
So real quick, so people can find you again. What are you on Instagram, Facebook, or just Instagram right now?
Just Instagram right now. Like I said, we're building it as we fly it. So you can find us at Intentional Savage Fitness. We are an online nutrition, fitness, coaching, and accountability group. We are geared towards first responders. There you go. You got it
there it
right
is,
there.
dude.
Thank you very much.
Hang on, back up a little. Back it up. You, Jordan. There you go. Boom.
See
Okay,
the logo? Check out the logo. My wife was like, "Is that supposed to be you?" I'm like,
Strikingly similar
When
to
have I looked
someone,
like that?
Okay, is there a website for you guys too yet? Is it being built?
Not yet.
Working on
We're
it.
Okay.
we're working on that. That's the landing gear. Okay. That hasn't been put on yet. So
It's all good.
again, it's geared towards first responders, although that is not a requirement.
Yeah.
What we are trying to do is to help find the guys that were stuck like us and give you a different look at what retirement, what your career is going to be like, what your life is like. We will change your lives.
Absolutely.
We will.
Love it.
Just the way ours was changed. So show up and we will help you keep showing up and we will get you there.
Let's go, baby. I freaking love it. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. We will chat after about getting that commercial made for you guys. But last thing for me is keep going. Keep
Thank
doing
you.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If anybody understands, Jordan and I do understand about building something from the ground up. It's work. It takes time. It takes dedication. It takes grit. There's going to be highs. There's going to be lows. There's going to be things that you fail at, but you just keep moving forward. I always say, well, look, even if I mess up, I'm going to mess up and fail forward. You just learn as you go. Because with this podcast, there's a lot of people who want everything perfect right away when you start. It's not going to be, dude. You need to just start.
Yep.
Just get going. And
That's what we did.
What you were saying, I was like, yes.
yeah, that's what we did. I mean, like I told you, this podcast started in my kitchen on a plastic table.
Right.
And now we have this full setup, and we got global downloads. You don't know where it can go unless you just try.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Nope.
go for it. So if I could say that, just go for it. You
Appreciate
have nothing
it.
to lose, man.
You guys are
Let it
truly
grow.
inspiring with that.
Yeah, no worries. So usually at the end of this podcast, we do a let's go on 3.
I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to get it.
I'll actually do this. You know what? Why don't you lead us out, dude? You can do the 1, 2, 3, let's go. And we'll get out of here.
All right, everybody, thank you for listening. Tim, Jordan, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it. Let's get a let's go on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's go.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for listening in. If you liked what you just listened to, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and on Spotify. Please follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Facebook. And a big shout out to Stephen Clark, our sound editor. He's a huge part of this team that is unseen. It's 89 Barbers, our first sponsor. Look good, feel good, be great. That's 2 locations, Orange, California, and Long Beach, California. Book your appointment online, 89barbers.com. Bye, everybody.